All right, let's talk about that runny nose that just won't quit. If you feel like you're in a constant battle with sniffles and sneezes, well, stick around because you are definitely not alone.
And when I say you're not alone, I really mean it. Get this. Official records might say about 49 out of 1,000 people have rhinitis, but population studies, they tell a totally different story. The real number is probably way higher, closer to 300 per thousand. So why the huge gap? Well, it's because most of us just self-treat with something from the pharmacy and never actually see a doctor about it.
And let's be clear, this is so much more than just a minor annoyance. It's a real drag on your life. We're talking about it messing with your sleep, getting in the way of your daily plans, and even causing you to miss work or school. So no, it's not all in your head. It's a real thing.
Okay, so let's dive right in. This is the first and honestly the most crucial step to getting some relief. Understanding that not all rhinitis is created equal. There are two main types, and figuring out which one is crashing your party is absolutely key.
So what's the real difference here? Well, with allergic rhinitis, your immune system is basically freaking out over something totally harmless, like pollen. It thinks it's a threat. But with non-allergic rhinitis, it's your nose itself that's just oversensitive. Think of it like this. One is your body's alarm system going off by mistake. The other is just a really touchy sensor.
To get just a little bit nerdy for a second, allergic rhinitis is what we call an IgE-mediated response. What that means is your body creates these little antibodies, called IgE, when it sees an allergen. Those antibodies then tell your cells to dump a bunch of chemicals, like histamine, into your system. And that's what causes all the misery, the swelling, the itching, the endless sneezing.
And who are these so-called allergens? These usual suspects? Oh, they're everywhere. We've got tree and grass pollens, which are the famous culprits behind seasonal hay fever. But then you've got the year-round troublemakers, like tiny house dust mites, dander from our furry friends like cats and dogs, and even mold. Now on the flip side, we've got non-allergic rhinitis. And here, the problem isn't your immune system. It's your nose physically reacting to everyday stuff. We're talking about things like smoke, a sudden blast of cold air, strong smells from cooking, or even just going for a run. And here's a classic one, overusing those decongestant sprays. Yep, that can cause it too. So the big question is, how in the world do you figure out which type you have? Well, it's kind of like a detective story, and the investigation starts with a really surprising first clue.
And this is what's so fascinating. The single most important tool for figuring this out isn't some fancy high-tech test. It's you. It's your story. How and when you experience your symptoms, that's where all the most important clues are hiding.
See, a doctor is going to ask a bunch of questions to piece this puzzle together. Is it mostly itching and sneezing, or is it a nose that's just blocked solid? Do things get worse in the spring, or every single time you start dusting? Do you have pets? Do you also have things like asthma? Every answer you give is like a breadcrumb on the trail to the right diagnosis.
So, what about blood tests? Well, yeah, they can be used to confirm a suspected allergy for sure, but honestly, they're often not needed. If your story just screams hay fever, if your symptoms perfectly line up with pollen season, a test isn't really going to tell the doctor anything new. They usually save those for when the case is a little more mysterious. Okay, so once you've got a diagnosis, it's time to build your own personal treatment toolkit. This is all about finding the right gear for your specific job.
Now, for allergic rhinitis, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's more of a step-by-step approach that depends on how bad your symptoms are. If it's just an occasional thing, an antihistamine when you need it might be all you need. But if it's persistent and it's really getting you down, a corticosteroid nasal spray is usually the go-to starting point. And speaking of which, if a blocked, stuffy nose is your main enemy, there is a clear winner in this fight. While both can help, those corticosteroid nasal sprays are way more effective at clearing up that awful congested feeling than antihistamine pills are. It's just a fact.
But what if your problem isn't allergies at all? Well, then you need a different toolkit. For what's often called idiopathic rhinitis, which is just a fancy way of saying we don't know the exact cause, the first choice treatment is usually a different kind of nasal spray, one containing something called azolastine.
All right, medication is a huge help, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. If you want real long-term relief, you've got to play the long game, and that means managing your environment to avoid your triggers. This part is absolutely essential.
So if you've got hay fever, your mission is pollen avoidance. That means windows stay shut during pollen season. Wear sunglasses outside, they act like a physical shield for your eyes. And whatever you do, do not hang your laundry outside to dry, unless you want it to become a giant pollen magnet. Pro tip, don't take your pollen-covered clothes off in the bedroom either.
If dust mites are your nemesis, the main battleground is the bedroom. You've got to wash your bedding, and wash it often, in hot water. We're talking 60 degrees Celsius or 140 Fahrenheit. And here's something really interesting about how the advice has changed over time. You know those expensive allergen-proof mattress covers? Well, the latest thinking is they don't actually make much of a difference. The focus is back on simple, regular, effective cleaning.
Okay, this next one, this is often the toughest pill to swallow. For pet allergies, the single most effective thing you can do, hands down, is to remove the pet from the home. I know that's really hard to hear. Keeping the pet out of the bedroom does help, but it's a much, much less effective solution because those allergens are tiny and they just get everywhere.
So in the end, it all comes back to you. The key to finally managing this thing starts with you becoming a detective for your own body. Pay attention to the patterns, the triggers, the timing. Your personal story holds the clue that can unlock the right diagnosis, point you toward the right treatment, and help you finally take back control.